Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome back once again to Fat Cat Collections. Going back to the basics. So today I'm going to share with you guys another awesome Invicta watch. And you know, a lot of these watches I've reviewed over the years. This one I haven't reviewed for about, I'd say, 7 or 8 years. And this is the very first Invicta that started all for me. That started my passion with the brand, and really just kind of started, I think, my passion for collecting watches. It kind of took it to a next level. So today I'm going to be talking about my very first Invicta. I remember getting this watch, oh my god, it has to be at least 7 years ago. Let's just, to be safe, let's say 6 or 7 years. No, it's gotta be 7 years. At least 7 years ago. I remember seeing, you know, you didn't see a lot of Invictas back then. I remember when I was looking at some of the watches that you'd see on the home shopping networks, I don't even really remember Invicta really being on the home shopping network. I remember some of the major players were like, you saw the Androids, or the original Aragon name. You saw a lot of the Renatos. Renato was always like on the shopping networks. It's too bad because Renato was a pretty cool brand that's just kind of fallen off, you know. But Invicta, you know, I don't know where I first discovered the brand, but I remember looking at the different kind of watches. I had just purchased around this time my first Diesel Big Daddy, not the Granddaddy, but just one of their Big Daddy watches. And I remember going into like one of the local stores, one of the local malls, and just seeing those Diesel watches there and saying, man, you know, that thing is so big, you know, it's so obnoxious. And I was used to wearing some of the Jacob watches that were like 47 millimeter. Anything that was 47 millimeter was considered huge. And I started to look and just look for big watches, and I discovered this watch right here, the Venom watch, right? And so I saw this watch. Basically, it wasn't on YouTube. There wasn't a lot of YouTubers out there then. There wasn't a lot of information on this watch. All that I could really find was basically a few pictures, a few ads on the internet, and the description of as far as the size. And I remember reading and reading that it was 52 millimeter, and I was like, 52 millimeter. I'm like, that can't be right. And I was looking at it because when you look at it in the pictures, it just didn't look like a big watch. It just looks like a standard size watch, 45 millimeter. I was like, how could that be? I'm like, that's got to be a typo, you know. And sure enough, it was not a typo. And I remember reading 23 millimeters. I remember taking out the ruler and trying to like picture that on my wrist. And I'm like, gosh, that watch is almost an inch thick. Like, that can't be right. Like I said, it was. So this is my very first Invicta watch. I paid about $350 for this watch, which for me, you know, I mean, I still like to keep my purchase under $300. I would never consider spending $300 on a watch back in the day, ever. Like, it was like, I'd like to keep it under $200. And you know, this watch really kind of started the ball rolling. I don't remember where I got it. I'm pretty sure I got it off an eBay seller. Now you can get Venoms, you know, I mean, the Invicta prices, the brand has become so popular in the last 7 or 8 years that you can get incredible deals. I've got Venom watches for the $150 price range that I have. You know, so, you know, this is one of the watches that, you know, stainless steel, standard, you know, non-plated stainless steel is always just a safe bet. Again, I haven't had any issues with plated watches by Invicta or Aragon or really any brand. But, you know, this was the very first, this was my very first Invicta. So, let's address the haters, right? So the guys are like, oh, those watches are disposable, they're not going to last. This watch is about 7 years old. Granted, the battery is dead. You know, you're not going to get more. You're going to maximum get 5 years out of an Invicta battery. Reserve level, Ronda power movements. Ronda movements in these watches. If you pull the crown, keep it in number 2 position while you're storing it, then you'll save 70%. So you'll definitely got to maximize the amount of time. Since I started doing that, I have watches that are over 5 years old, still the same battery, still running, still ticking away. So that's a good thing to do with the Ronda movements. This watch is just, I forget about this watch. I don't even wear it that much, and I just, you know, because I forget that I have all these big, beautiful watches. You know, we have so many. I think I have like 150 watches in my collection, not just Invictus, but, you know, some of these things you just kind of forget about. You know, as you guys know, as collectors know, you know, it's always on to the next Invicta, or always on to the next watch. If you're, you know, not just an Invicta collector, it's always the new one, you know, and we always go back to watches, but it's just a killer watch. And I always tell people, people, you know, guys who are, I love hearing from guys who are like, oh man, I'm just starting my collection, or I picked up this watch, I'm looking to get this. It's brand new and exciting. And I have a lot of different model Invictas, and I have my favorites, you know, like the Sub-Aqua Nomas. You know, I don't like every Sub-Aqua Noma, you know. For me, you know, I bought the 3. I have the 5. That's my favorite Noma. I like the Sub-Aqua Specialty, but those are really my 2 favorites. You know, the newer ones, they don't really do anything for me. I like them. Don't get me wrong; they're nice, but I don't like them enough to add them to my collection because I don't need every single Invicta watch out there. But the Venom is a watch that I absolutely love the design. It's just like the Grand Octane and the Sea Hunters. It's a design that I love. It's timeless. It's a classic, and it's one that I'll probably add another one to my collection eventually. You know, the Venom watch is just, it's bold, it's beefy, it is just a killer watch. Now they have done many, you know, different types. We won't call them generations, like 2, 3. Gets a little confusing. Really, the only watch I've seen that Invicta is somewhat consistent on, like generation 1, 2, 3s, are more like the Sea Hunters. You know, even that gets a little confusing with the name. They just came out with the newest one. They call it Sea Hunter 3. Well, again, to me, it's a Sea Hunter 4 because they already had 3 generations of the Sea Hunter. So, you know, it gets a little confusing. But with Venoms, they've had the Venom. They've come out with the Venom Hybrid. They've done a lot of different different types of bezels. I mean, there's all kinds of variations of this watch, but this is the original. This is the OG of my collection right here. So let's talk about the model number. So model number on this one here, for some of you guys who ask me that, it's 5730. Now this watch you're probably not going to find anymore. You know, Invicta, a lot of times they won't make the same watch. They'll make this pretty much the same watch, but they'll call it a different model number. It'll be very similar. You know, it just depends. Sometimes Invicta will go ahead and stop making a watch for maybe a year or so or whatever. They'll have different variations. Then they'll say, all right, we're going to, you know, make another silver variation of the Venom, and they'll add, let's say, a different movement. Then they call it a totally different model number. So 5730, I'll just take a quick peek here while I got you guys with me. Let's see here. I highly doubt you're going to find this. For an older model like this, I'll always go right to eBay because a lot of times you're not going to see these older models on, you know, on like, you know, like Shop HQ or Invicta stores. But let's see what we get here. See if we get anything. 5730 Invicta. You might find one. Yeah, nothing. So not going to find it. But if you were to look at like just Venom watch, if you look at just Invicta Venom watch, I mean, you can find hybrids. You can find many different variations. There's a Sea Dragon. Just on the first page I'm looking here, you know, you get the Joker editions. That hybrid's just an amazing price, $229. You know, but when you scroll through, here's one with the abalone dial, incredible price. With the only difference is it's got the rose tone bezel, $168. Here's one here, very similar. This one's got bids on. It's got 23 bids. It's going for $80 plus $13 shipping. There's 1 day and 2 hours left. That's very similar. They call it iceberg. Some of the names these guys give these things. Iceberg polished. It's like, you know, dude, chill. But the model on this one here is 23885. Again, very similar to this watch. I'd say it's almost identical. Slightly different face, but very similar as far as the complications and everything. So, you know, you can find ones that are very similar. Again, the cool thing about Invicta is that even on discontinued models, they usually come back and make a new model number with very similar styling. You know what I mean? So let's just talk a little bit more about this particular one here. I'm going to try to find information on what kind of movement this one has. It does have a Ronda. But I forget exactly which one it has. Let's see, here's Amazon. They have it listed on Amazon, but there's no way they have this. Yeah, unavailable. This will give us the information though. So again, they say 3 pounds. It's shipped. That's not. The watch does weigh just under a pound though. Again, that's unsized. If you throw a couple links out of this watch, I have a 7-inch wrist, so it drops it down probably about, I'd say about 13, 14 ounces. Still, I remember reading about this watch when I bought it. I was like, no way, a pound. I'm like, that's so heavy. it's incredible how we just desensitize with some of this stuff. Now it's just like, yeah, it's a big watch, but it's not huge. It's just crazy. But this is a massive, massive watch. This is one of the models with screw down crown and function pushers. You have, I believe it's 3,000 feet of water resistance on this one here. Now I've never put that to the test. A lot of guys, you know, you get back and forth with that. I mean, again, if you've had experience diving with these watches, drop me a comment. I've had people say, I dive all the time with them, they work great. Other people, you know, they'll claim they're not rated. I've seen some things on the internet about pro divers, you know, class action lawsuits. I can't keep track of all these haters that want to go. You know, some people may have had a bad experience with a watch. That can happen with any brand. Again, I don't buy these watches for dive tools. I buy them because I love the way they look. I love the way they feel when I'm wearing them, and it's just part of the collection. 3,280 feet of water resistance on these, 52 millimeter case diameter. Remember, a lot of times you gotta be a little careful with the measurements. This is 52 millimeter at the bezel. Generally, when you'll find the watch, I get it all the time. Guys are like, oh, is that the 70 millimeter version of the Sea Hunter? There is no 70 millimeter of the Sea Hunter. There is only a 58 and a 50. So with this, I know they make a Grand Venom, which is larger. I don't remember exactly what size it is, but this measurement is at the bezel. Most measurements are going to be at the bezel. Naturally, a watch will always use the word wear larger, because when you start adding on giant function pushers and crowns and the case extending past the bezel, naturally the watch is bigger. So just depends on where you want to measure, but this is a 52 millimeter bezel measurement. And you can see it compared to a 58 millimeter watch I have on my wrist right now, the Grand Octane. You can see it's, you know, the Grand Octane is a larger watch, but this is a killer watch, guys. If you haven't added a Venom watch to your collection, I highly recommend you get one. Again, they make different variations. This is the original. I love the Venom band. I mean, the original band on this is just absolutely stunning. It's very, when you think of, I don't know, when you think of just the name Venom, it just kind of fits. It goes, I'm not sure what their inspiration was on this, but it's just amazing the different finishing techniques they use. You know, they can just make a band and throw it together with one finish. They do a combination. They have a matte finish going down the center links. They have then a brush finish on the sides of the links, and then going down in between the brush finish and the matte finish, you have mirror polishing. So you really highlights all the different design aspects of the watch. Again, you have this awesome scalloped bezel. For the knuckle edge, like, oh, turn the bezel. I like to joke about this, but turn the bezel on a Rolex and you'll see the difference. Guys, the bezel in this lines up perfectly. I mean, let me just stop it at the 00 on top. I mean, it is absolutely perfectly lined up with the 12 o'clock position. I've never had any Invictas not line up, despite what some of the idiots might say who give these negative reviews on the internet. Almost a pound of weight. Super solid. Now, I will say with the Venom, with their particular band, there's not a lot of flex with the band. So some guys have said, depending on your wrist size, you can see it's sized for 7 inches. It wraps right around my wrist. Let me go ahead and throw it on. Let me get this Grand Octane off my wrist here. They're very comfortable in my opinion. I've never really had any Invictas that I say, oh man, this isn't comfortable. But if you are a kind of guy, I would say if you have a smaller wrist than this, if you have a 6-inch wrist, it is going to start to, there's a limit to how much this can flex. But I think if you have a 6-inch wrist, you'll be totally fine on this, because there's still room for this to flex in. It really contours around your wrist with those giant lugs. Invicta, when they make their watches, despite how large they are, they really make the watches pretty comfortable. Now me, I honestly don't give a shit if a watch is like, it could hurt. I'd be like, yep, looks pimp. But, but they are comfortable. I mean, again, that is subjective. If you're really used to wearing a smaller watch, you may not like a big watch. I guess it's heavy. You got to get used to it. And a good indicator, a good indication that that's true is even when I put a wrist on my right hand, or put a watch on my right wrist, I'm not used to wearing a watch on my other arm, so it does feel different. If you can really feel the weight, just because I'm not used to it. But I've never found any of these watches to be uncomfortable. I will say that the Sea Hunter, the giant Sea Hunter, that is a watch that can become slightly uncomfortable if you wear it for a period of 8 or 9 hours. If it's a big, heavy watch, and sometimes they can dig a little bit. I will say that the original Venom, super comfortable. If you get a Venom hybrid, I will say that sometimes on the Venom hybrids, or not sometimes, but on the Venom hybrids and the specialties, has a lot sharper case back and case edge. And so I could find that kind of digs in a little bit on my wrist, but nothing where, you know, I'm like, oh, I can't wear that. I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not bitching out on this shit. You know, I mean, I mean, we're grown men, guys. We can't, you know, don't be whiny about little things like that, you know. But again, everybody's different. Everybody has likes and dislikes, and that's okay. But I personally think these are super comfortable, and I've had no issues wearing them. Just a fantastic watch. I believe the band, if I remember correctly on this, is about 9 inches. So again, if you're a big guy with a big wrist, I haven't really met too many people on my channel who have said, oh man, my wrists are so big, I just can't wear an Invicta, I need more links. You know, I mean, I've just never really, I may have come across one, but generally these watches are made to fit, you know, any adult. I mean, really, these watches, you can size these down as low as you possibly can. And on this particular watch, you can remove all the links. I've had watches where you only have links removed up to like 5 or 6. This, you can really bring it down to a teeny tiny wrist if you wanted to, and up to a big beefy wrist. So, you know, they're very adaptable. It just really comes down to whether or not you're going to personally find it comfortable to wear. I think it's fantastic. I'm actually, it's funny, I was doing a couple of videos yesterday and I'm like, oh man, I forgot about this watch. And I put it on, I'm like, I gotta wear that. So it kind of breathes new life into my collection, me coming back and reviewing these. It's a killer joint, man. It's just an awesome watch. And I think you guys are, I mean, if you don't have one, you gotta pick up an original Venom. Now I paid, you know, and I have 2 Venoms like this. I've almost bought recently the black and gunmetal version. You know, sometimes I'll see a watch and it'll just really speak to me, and the price is right. I've seen these watches, $130 I've paid as some of my the other Venoms that I have. They're slightly different than the original. The bezel's different, more of a chiseled kind of carved, cut out bezel. But man, I mean, I tell you, you guys, you got to get a Venom if you don't have one. And the prices, you know, if you're using my links, going to Invicta stores, whenever I review a watch, I'll put the link, the corresponding link where you can find it for the best value. And honestly, a lot of times with Invicta stores, they really are untouchable. If you see a watch that you're willing to just kind of wait on, and you don't really, I try not to fall in love with a watch, because then I know if I can just kind of wait on it, wait till I get a great deal. If I lose out on it, I'm not too bent out of shape. You know, a perfect example, Grand Octane. This is one of my favorite models. I mean, I have 9 of these. This one here I got for $130. Exact same watch, minus screw down crown and function pushers. I paid upwards of $400. Again, timing is everything. Just depends on the market. And I think right now, you know, with how popular Invicta is, they've really made their watches just super affordable. So again, you can't get this watch, but I will put a link in the description for things that might be comparable Venoms. I'll put 2 links where you can find any kind of Venom, and then I'll try to find something in stainless steel that if you do like this look and you look for something that looks like this, you'll have some kind of option. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Just a killer piece. Let me know if I can help you guys in any way. Just so you guys know, I am about 5'7.5". I weigh about 185 pounds. And I have a 7-inch wrist. So just get you guys an idea. Again, I always pride myself on showing you. I don't know if you guys caught that. I almost tripped. I don't know if you guys, you know, again, it's something I pride myself on in these videos when I do watch reviews, is showing you what it looks like on the wrist. And I just think it's a really good way to kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like on a guy your size, your height, and your weight. Remember, guys, I'm not, you know, I'm not a huge guy. I'm not a big bodybuilder or anything like that. I'm just kind of average sized guy. You know, again, 7-inch wrist. You don't have to be a big, huge dude to pull off big, giant watches. I mean, they look good. You'll get compliments with them. You get people ask you. They draw people in. People just aren't used to seeing, you know, watches. And I'm not saying not, you know, a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of Invictas out there, a lot of people who collect, but, you know, generally, I can tell you, I mean, at least in my town, all the times I used to go out to restaurants or at work where I was dealing with a lot of people, go out to bars, whatever, I'm constantly getting people say, man, that's a crazy watch. What is that? You know, people just want to know more about them. And, you know, if you like big watches, then Invicta's your brand. If you're not into the big giant watches or oversized timepieces, there's, you know, Invicta makes a lot of watches. They just give you bang for your buck no matter what you choose. So, and if I can help you guys in any way, let me know. Drop me an email, drop me a comment, drop me an email. The email address in the description of every single video. If I can help, like I said, in any way, I'm here for you. So anyway, guys, have a wonderful evening and take care.